NFL Power Rankings brought to you by Manscaped. We'll tell you more about their awesome men's grooming tools later on in the show. The New York Jets get things started at the bottom. I thought they looked pretty bad against the Buffalo Bills in Week 1. And their stadium co-host, I guess I'll say, the Giants, check in at number 31. They did not have a good offensive showing, especially on the ground against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then the Bengals check in at number 30. It's not truly a clean slate to open up these NFL Power Rankings. Some expectations entering the year help determining who the worst teams are with those 0-1 marks. Bengals at 30. The Dolphins at number 29. The offense, again, struggled for Miami. So who is the worst team in the NFL entering Week 1? The majority always voted for the Jaguars. Well, they're not going to be the worst team anymore. So get your votes in for me in the comments section. Which NFL team do you think is the worst right now? Is it the Jets, the Giants, somebody else? Get your votes in the comments section. Might be a couple of votes for the Carolina Panthers. They check in at number 28. Almost came back against the Raiders, but didn't quite have enough. Maybe the worst showing in Week 1, but it came against a really good team. The Cleveland Browns, they kind of hung around for a quarter and a half-ish and then just wilted like a dead flower in the back half, getting blown out in the end by the Ravens. One of the biggest surprises of Week 1 was the Indianapolis Colts. They dropped way down our rankings to 26 because we had to put the Jacksonville Jags ahead of them. The Jags beat them. The Jags are 1-0. Do I think the Jags are going to be great this year? No, not really. I don't think they're going to be a premier NFL team. I think they're going to continue to have some struggles. But they won in impressive fashion over the Indianapolis Colts, and that's what matters. Week 1 power rankings, they're going to change a lot, or Week 2, I should say. They're going to change a lot, but we only have one game to go on, so that's what matters the most. So let us know who we are hating on. I'm sure there will be some teams out there that we think, hey, you didn't put them up high enough. That is okay. Now, I will make note, these rankings are voted on by the entire Chat Sports staff. So if you don't like a particular ranking, I just want you guys to know it's not my fault. I take absolutely zero responsibility if we're rating your favorite team too low, but let us know in the comments who you think we're hating on after 1 week of games. Do want to mention that Colts-Jags game again here. How about Gardner Minshew, man? I mean, this was one, I think, the biggest surprises of Week 1. A very impressive showing. He was nearly perfect. 19 of 20. James Robinson, the rookie UDFA, he played very, very well as well. I think that makes sense as a sentence there. But the Jags impressed. Is it going to keep up? I don't know. I'm not convinced that's the case. But after 1 week of games, they deserve to be ahead of the Indianapolis Colts. All right, over now to the Denver Broncos. They almost pulled it out, but they didn't, and that's what matters. They're number 24. Speaking of almost pulling it out, the Detroit Lions. DeAndre Swift had that ball in his hands, and then he dropped it. Also, Detroit, maybe don't let the Bears somehow rally from down multiple scores in the fourth quarter. Just saying. The Falcons, they check in at number 22. A bit of a fourth quarter, I don't know if rally is a fair term. It was almost some garbage time for Atlanta. They check in there. And a big-time dropper, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, if you only watched the first half of the Eagles-Washington game, you would have been like, yeah, Eagles are top 10, top 15 team. Then they kind of fell apart. So, Eagles fans, I'm sure you're upset with your ranking. Remember, things will change next week. We only have one game sample size to have the biggest impact on where teams are ranked. So I want you guys to get your votes in. Use the like and dislike button on YouTube. If you think that we ranked your team fairly, I want you guys to like this video. If you don't think that's the case, well, go ahead and give it a dislike. The Washington football team ranked just barely ahead of Philadelphia. Head-to-head matters right now, especially with a limited sample size. Washington scored 27 unanswered points in that comeback victory. Carson Wentz was great to start and then just kind of fell apart after that. Looking at the stat production from Wentz versus Dwayne Haskins, you'd figure that the Eagles won, but not the case. Turnovers sink the Eagles. Washington pulls a surprise upset. The Chargers check in at number 19. They held on against the Cincinnati Bengals. They are 1-0, but they are one of the lower-ranked undefeated teams. Again, it's not quite a clean slate. That'll come as we get more and more games and sample sizes in. Plus, the Bengals aren't that good. Same is true for the Las Vegas Raiders, a pair of AFC West teams here. The Panthers are not that great. The Raiders lost Henry Ruggs briefly and then were able to rally down the stretch and hold on for a game-winning score via Josh Jacobs, and the defense stood strong at the end to escape. Now, that defense I don't think is all that great, but a win is a win, and the Raiders started things off on the right foot. The Houston Texans, they did not. Now, it came against the Chiefs, so in terms of quality losses, if we want to borrow a CFP term, Houston had one of the better ones, but they still have some work to do. Shout out the Chicago Bears for somehow rallying and taking down the Detroit Lions in I thought one of the more fun games to watch, at least for the fourth quarter in Week 1. Mitchell Trubisky, look, he stepped up, man. He rallied his team late. Now, all the Lions had to do was hold on. If John Schifter held on that football, different game. But Trubisky started, I thought, very poorly, but finally got going. Is Trubisky back? Was he ever really here? I think we'll wait and make a decision on that one. But the Bears open up with a win. The Dallas Cowboys did not. Now, maybe things would have been different if Michael Gallup wasn't flagged for, I will say, questionable offensive pass interference call. Maybe the Rams are better than we thought. But that was a pretty disappointing performance by the Dallas Cowboys. And if you want to avoid a disappointing performance, make sure you're using the Lawnmower 3.0. Guys, ladies don't want to see a jungle and a forest down there. That's not what they want. So get the single best men's grooming tool out there, the Lawnmower 3.0. It's not going to tug, it's not going to yank, it's not going to pull or cut. Makes life easier on you, and you can even use it in the shower so that hair doesn't get everywhere. Head over to manscaped.com/chat. That should automatically apply promo code chat. It'll get you 20% off and free shipping on the Lawnmower 3.0 and whatever other men's grooming tools you want to use. So check it out, manscaped.com/chat. That link will be in the comments and in the description. I was pretty disappointed by the Vikings' performance. They tried to make it a game late. I actually had the Cowboys ahead of the Vikings on my voting side, but I was outvoted by the Chat Sports staff. But both of those teams did not show up very well in Week 1. Speaking of, I should say, potentially overrated teams, because I think the Cowboys are a fair answer to this one after that Week 1 performance. Who do you guys believe is the most overrated NFL team? Get your votes in for me in the comments section. 3 straight losses here for 15 through 13. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, look, they lost to a really good Saints team, but Bruce Arians kind of threw some shade after the game at Tom Brady, who started well, but finished 23 of 36 for only 239 yards, 2 scores, 2 interceptions. Yeah, you had Mike Evans a bit banged up, but another pick 6 by a Bucs quarterback. Those were supposed to go away with Jameis Winston no longer in Tampa, but at least for Week 1, those mistakes reared their ugly head. All right, the Rams, they check in at number 12. I was super impressed by the game plan and the scheme designed up by Sean McVay. I thought that was a big reason why the Rams maybe are back after a down 2019. The Patriots just outside the top 10. The defense looks strong. Cam Newton's legs correctly being utilized by the New England Patriots. I was impressed by that offensive plan. But that game against the Dolphins, they're probably not going to be that good this year. The Patriots now get their first true test, and the Seahawks get their first true test, I think, too. And what I think is the top matchup in Week 2, Patriots-Seahawks. So let's get an early preview and prediction here, folks. Who do you guys have? Type P for the Patriots or type S for the Seahawks? The Steelers kick things off inside our top 10 here. Wasn't a perfect game. The defense allowed too many big plays to Darius Slayton of all people. But boy, did they bottle up Saquon Barkley on the ground. 15 carries, 6 yards. Yikes. Now, he did have 60 through the air, so kind of saved some fantasy, teams to an extent. But Big Ben, I thought, looked much better. How about Benny Snell, by the way? 19 carries, 113 yards after James Conner left the game with yet another injury. Juju Smith-Schuster, one of the best who's backs of the week. But Steelers, a big-time win on Monday Night Football. Just like our number 9 team, the Tennessee Titans. They snuck by the Denver Broncos, breaking producer Sam's heart in the process. Stephen Gostkowski did not have a good game. He missed his first 3 field goals, missed an extra point. That's why the Titans were clinging to a 1-point deficit, but then a 25-yarder with 17 seconds left to win the game for Tennessee. A huge win there for the Tennessee Titans. The Niners check in here at number 8. They are 0-1 after they lose to the Arizona Cardinals, who actually check in at number 7 on our list. The Cardinals, I thought a pretty impressive performance. Now, San Francisco's banged up. I think they're going to be okay long term, but the Cardinals, the head-to-head win, gets them the advantage. The Buffalo Bills at number 6. I didn't think that game against the Jets was nearly as close as the score might indicate. The Jets finally got going a little bit late. But the Bills at number 6, and a bit of a gap in our power rankings here between 6 and 5 based on the voting. There were some stark differences there. Green Bay checks in at number 5. They looked awesome against the Minnesota Vikings. And Aaron Rodgers, folks, I think he heard some of the complaints. I think he heard some of the, hey, why are you hating on us so much? And Rodgers isn't the same guy anymore. Well, against the bad Viking secondary, or at least they looked bad against Rodgers, he showed up, baby. That's vintage A-Rod. 32 of 44, 364, and 4 touchdowns. He looked absolutely fantastic. So before we get into our top 4, who is the best team in the NFL? I want you guys to get your votes in here. Is it still the Chiefs? Is it the Ravens? Is it maybe the Saints or Seahawks? Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. Number 4, the Seattle Seahawks, and I think it's a pretty almost clear top 4. The Seahawks are a legitimate threat, folks, because entering the year, I said I would buy them if they let Russ cook. Guess what they did against the Atlanta Falcons? Russell Wilson was allowed to cook. 31 of 35, 322, 4 touchdowns. When you throw as many touchdowns as you had incomplete passes, that means you had yourself a day. If Seattle keeps this up, they're going to be a top 5 staple, if not top 3 staple, going forward in our power rankings. The Saints, they check in at number 3. Our top 3 actually didn't change from the pre-week 1 power rankings. The Saints beat the Bucs. The Ravens, they check in at number 2. They looked absolutely fantastic against the Houston Texans. But the Chiefs remain number 1 until a team takes them down. The defending Super Bowl champions simply deserve that top spot. The Chiefs, I thought, looked great against the Houston Texans. Even though Mahomes might not have had his best game, how about Clyde Edwards-Helaire having one of the best performances among all first-year players in Week 1? The Chiefs are worthy of that top spot, but the teams below them, the Ravens, the Saints, and Seahawks, Packers too, I think right now, are all very much legitimate Super Bowl threats.